All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Northeast Indiana Basketball Summit. I'm your host, Ben Smith, joined by my co-host, Jeff Metzger. Before introducing our guest, we want to thank Feel for the Game for providing the platform to have all these presentations live and available for replay. You can check out all the resources over at feelforthegame.com. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Brandon Durnell, forward, Spring Arbor men's basketball. Brandon is a native of Fort Wayne. He attended Homestead High School and graduated in 2017. Through 2 seasons of varsity basketball, he had a combined record of 44-10, and they won 2 sectional championships. As a junior and senior, he earned all-conference, all-area, and all-state honors. He also played for Total Package Elite, local AAU program. TPE 2017 was the first team in the program, and during their final summer, they won over 40 games. He continues to coach for the AAU program each summer. He is currently attending Spring Arbor, where he's majoring in communication studies as a member of the men's basketball team. As a freshman, he played in all 31 games, making 1 start, averaging 14 minutes per game with over 6 points and 3 rebounds per game. As a sophomore, he played in all 37 games, starting 34, averaging 29 minutes per game with over 16 points and 6 rebounds per game. During that season, he was a second-team all-conference selection. Spring Arbor also won the 2019 national championship. In the title game, Brandon scored a career-high 32 points with 8 rebounds. This past year, as a junior, Brandon played in 29 games, starting 23. Again, he averaged 29 minutes and nearly 17 points and over 6 rebounds per game. He was a first-team all-conference selection, and he earned All-American honorable mention. Brandon, thanks for being here.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for having me, Ben. Thank you, Ben, Jeff. I know Jeremy Roush was a big part of this. The Feel for the Game staff, just want to thank you for, all you're doing for the area. I know all these coaches clinics are going around and sorry, let me start my video.
There we go.
You can see me. Perfect. All these coaches clinics are going around and appreciate that you guys are doing a local one for sure. Definitely am excited to do this topic because I've been around such great coaches and programs that have just preached culture and buy-in. Homestead with Chris Johnson, TPE with Coach Chase, Coach Indy, and then Spring Arbor with Coach Cottingham, and then all the assistant coaches I have too, just, preaching that culture and buy-in. And, I didn't really realize how important it was until we won that national championship my sophomore year, just realizing that culture outweighs talent every day of the week. And, the great teams are talented, but they also prioritize that culture. And, I think of some of the D1 coaches. You have Tony Bennett at Virginia, Jay Wright, Villanova, Mark Few, Gonzaga, Coach K at Duke. They're very talented. They have talented players, but they prioritize that culture and buy-in piece into their program. So you just want me to get started? I'm trying to share my screen.
Yep. Here we go. You should be able to share now.
All right, there we go. So before I start, I just wanted to say that, I am 20 years old and I'm not saying I have it all figured out. That's definitely not the case. Still learning, still growing. So if I say something that you disagree with or you have a comment about or maybe a different spin on it, definitely write it down. You can reach out to me, text me, email me, call me, DM me. And then also question and answer. I know we're going to have time at the end for that. So if you have a question throughout it, you can write that down as well. So I'll just dive in. I'm going to start with a famous Coach Cottingham quote.
Hey, share your screen. Sorry.
What did you say?
Sorry, go ahead and share your screen again. I think I did something.
Can you see it now?
Yep. Well, I see.
Yeah, perfect. I got to pull it up. All right. You ready?
I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to start off with a famous Coach Cottingham quote. When you walk into our field house, it's right there on the top wall. Winning is always our goal, never our purpose. And, that just states that life is more than basketball. We need to have a purpose outside of winning, stats, accolades. We all have a bigger purpose than that. And I'll just share my purpose. Most importantly, I want to be a child of God. I want to be an incredible son, brother, cousin, grandson, etc. I want to be a great family member. I would consider my close friends, my family. I want to be incredible to them. And then, I want to be a great teammate. And then hopefully one day be a great father, husband. So how I would define my purpose is just love God, love others. That's the person I want to strive to be. And, I hope to be every single day. And for me, I love building relationships. I want to make that a priority. For those who know me, I'll reach out to anybody and anyone and talk about anything. And you may get a job or you may commit, and I may have never even talked to you before, and I'll reach out, congratulate you. I just want to build relationships. I want to connect. I think you can learn something new from every single person you meet. Every person in the world is unique, so anyone can teach you anything. And you never know where that relationship will take you as well. So, I want to create those long-lasting and meaningful relationships. Not all of those relationships will get to that level, obviously, but, worst case scenario, you have someone who, when you cross paths again, you can wave, smile, and say hi to. Helping players accomplish goals and dreams, that's more, I guess I can say that I want to do that as a teammate, but also that's more for when I want to coach. I don't know what level I want to coach yet. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I really would like to say it's in my future. I'm passionate and love the game. So when I coach, I want that to be my main goal, is just helping players accomplish their goals and dreams. I want to walk alongside those players and, help them through this challenging life that we live. Moving on to trust. Like I said, I'm a basketball junkie, and all these coaches clinics are going around. I think of the NABC, the Summit Coaches Clinic, this Coaches Clinic. A lot of the coaches that talk about culture and buy-in use this word right here, and I think it's so crucial. It's so important. Everything I'm going to talk about, it'll go full circle and right back to this word right here, trust. You have to have this as part of your program to be successful. And so I just thought of the four crucial areas of trust that I've seen. I've seen a lot of successful programs, and I've seen a lot of bad programs as well. And the bad programs a lot of the time miss one of these. And so the four crucial areas of trust is player to player, player to coach, and coach to player. Those are the three obvious ones. But the one that I think that coaches want to ignore and they miss is the parent to coach. You have to have this. Parents are just as much a part of the program as the players. You got to think that these parents are giving up their kids for multiple hours a week, sometimes with an adult that they may not even know. So you have to build that trust. Coaches have to build that trust with the parents. And I think there are ways you can do this, having big team family dinners. Maybe you have a potluck after the game throughout the season. Maybe you go to a family's house during the week, or maybe after a game when you're traveling. At Spring Arbor, after every game, win or lose, we circle around and everyone's families get together. We pray. We give updates on practices and, plans. And, the parents and the close family members are all a part of that. They're just as much a part of the program as the players. And I think that's really important. Now, I'm not saying as a coach, you have to tell the parents, playing time and stuff like that. I mean, you definitely can keep those conversations, personal. And, if a parent does have a question, though, I think you should have an open door policy and answer those questions because, like I said, it's so important to have that trust. Building trust is off the court first, then on the court. I just think of, when I think of this, I think of the YMCA runs, the pickup runs, where a bunch of random people come together and they try and play. and it's really bad basketball. I don't know if any of you have watched that before, but you go to the Y and all these random dudes from who knows where are playing, and it's not good at all because these players don't know each other. They don't know them as people, and they don't know how they play. So players want to know their teammates. And I think before you even touch a gym, you should have team meals, team activities, team fundraisers, something to get these players connected before they even touch the hardwood. Because once you get that trust off the court, they're much more willing to be able to communicate on the court. Players, people, they want to feel cared about. Like I said before, life is more than basketball. So, coaches need to talk about family, school, other hobbies, with their players. That's what players want. I mean, for players, basketball is a big part of their life, but there is a lot more to their life than just basketball. So pouring into them in different ways and other than just talking about basketball, and then just setting ground rules day one, what is allowed, what isn't allowed, I think is super important. And then not like having players on pedestals. So, it's consistent with every player. The senior has the same rules, regulations, standards, and as a freshman in the program, or, the guy who's averaging 20 points has the same rules, regulations, standards as a guy who may not play. I think that's super crucial. That'll build trust. And then, like I said, coaches, meetings, players. At Spring Arbor, we're meeting with a coach, either the head coach or an assistant coach once a week. And we are talking about basketball sometimes, but we're also talking about life, the family, school, other things that are going on. And I think that's super important. So then more on the court, players need to know the system, the philosophy, the terminology, having a team notebook and packet, having it all set in stone in a notebook and packet. So, everyone's on the same page on the court. In Spring Arbor's notebook, we have our mission statement. We have our RBL, which is do what's right, be and do your best, love your teammates. Our 3PT, which is play hard, play smart, play together with toughness. And then we have our 4 pillars, which is play great defense, value the basketball, take great shots, and win the hustle plays. So it's all right there. Our system, our philosophy, we have defensive stuff, rebound stuff, offense, special situations. So the players know what they're doing on the floor. Everyone's on the same page. And then, if a player isn't on the same page, you can tell them, hey, it's in your notebook. And then, players can hold each other. I'll talk about accountability later. But players can hold each other accountable for that. Players also want to know how the team operates. So, before you even start a practice, let your players know what your practices are going to look like. What drills are we going to do? How is it going to be set up? How long is it going to go? And then for game, what does a game day look like? What does pregame look like? A pregame warm-up. What does traveling look like for away games? Just get everyone on the same page. Again, when everyone's on the same page, you're going to build that trust with one another. And then the most important thing not the most important thing, but one of my favorite things in building trust is a roll talk. I think you have to have it. So just defining roles, you have to define your program. You need to define what kind of program this is with playing time. How do you do playing time? Do you go 5 deep, 6 deep, 7 deep, 10 deep? How does your program work? Do you play 3 guards, 2 bigs? Do you play 4 guards, 1 big? Do you play 5 guards? Does it depend on the situation? Players want to know this stuff, and you need to let your players know what your program's about. You need to define what's good defense, what's bad defense. You need to define what is and what isn't a good shot. Just things that you need to define off the bat that are a part of your program. So for me, this is my opinion. All 5 players need to be a threat. I think the worst thing you can do for a culture and for buy-in is to tell a kid not to shoot. I think it's the worst thing you can do, one of the most detrimental things you can do. All 5 players need to be a threat on the floor. Now, I understand a kid may be shooting 15, 18, 20% from 3. That kid probably should get in the gym and work on it. But you need to tell them that. He needs to be able to shoot the shots that he's been working on and are in his skill set. So you have that cohesive unit, if that makes sense. I mean, all 5 players need to be a threat. I mean, players want to score. I mean, you have your rare ones like your Dennis Rodmans that love to rebound, love to defend, but those are rare. the human nature is players want to score. So I think just putting limits on players is so negative, and we have to be open to allowing players to shoot when they're open. Now, I mean, obviously you want your best player to take the shot most of the time, but I think of the MJ documentary. Their team went to a next level when Phil Jackson made Michael Jordan get others involved. Scottie Pippen emerged. He was getting John Paxson involved, Steve Kerr involved. That's when teams are at their best. Is your best player is getting people involved. So yeah, all 5 players need to be a threat, and also all 5 players need to know how to play and make their own play, and they need to trust their teammates. So this starts when you create these situations in practice. In my opinion, a lot of practice should be live game reps and situations. Players need to do skill work on their own. Now, you probably are going to take the first quarter of practice doing fundamentals and, defensive stuff. But I think for the most part, a lot of practice should be live game reps and situations. Sorry, throat's dry. But anyways, players learn best by actually playing with one another. When you put them in those situations, they're going to know what they can do within your system, and they're also going to know what their teammates can do within your system. For example, Johnny is going to know when he drives that Bobby is going to lift, or maybe he's going to drift, or maybe Bobby's going to cut. Johnny's going to know when he drives that, that big is going to be in that drop-off spot. That builds that trust because you're creating those live game reps in practice. So I think we do need to create these environments where players, can fail in practice so then they can learn and grow, and, you don't have to worry about that stuff in game. Strong leadership, it's crucial in culture. So for me at Spring Arbor, I was able to go on a leadership retreat. We went to Montana and went there with other athletes that were chosen by their coaches, and then also other coaches from other athletic programs. And, we just heard from speakers, and we had people pour into us, and, we just learned leadership skills that we don't learn, any other way. I think you have to create leaders in your program because then, player-led teams are the best teams. That's my opinion. You want your leaders to be reflections of what the coach wants, and leadership meetings. So at Spring Arbor, we have a BLT meeting once a week. That's the basketball leadership team. Right now, it's our seniors and juniors, and coach will challenge us. Coach will bring us and tell us like goals for the week. We have iron teams, so we have a couple teammates for each person in the BLT, and we think we had a great week. We think we did everything right. And then we go and coach will throw us on the ass and we're like, yeah, we missed that. And, it pushes and challenges us, having those one-on-one meetings that I talked about earlier. And also a side note, not everyone is meant to be a leader. I think that's true because, some people just don't have the characteristics and some people don't have the personality to be a leader. And I think that's okay. I think coaches should still challenge and push those guys, but I don't think we should punish a guy who's doesn't have the characteristics or personality to be a leader. Accountability. So this is more for the players. I really like this mindset. Every day, every moment is an interview. You never know who's watching. You could have a future employer watching your actions that you're doing at that moment. You could have your mom or dad. I think that's what we should do. We should act like our mom and dad are watching our every action. I think that's a good mindset to have. But with that being said, everyone does fall short. Everyone makes mistakes off the court and on the court. So we need to hold each other accountable. I think the best accountability is player to player. I'm read The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It's a great book. It says in there, the first dysfunction is absence of trust, like I'm talking about. And it says great teams don't hold back from one another. Failure to open up with one another. And when you have a failure to open up with one another, that's when that negative stuff happens. And, there's that absence of trust. You have to be able to be open with one another. You have to be able to be open with your teammates because you have, the rules, the regulations, the philosophies in the notebook early, so players can hold each other accountable for those things. And I think the best culture happens is when you get the young guys holding the older guys accountable too, because they know that in that notebook, or coach has said from day one that this is a rule, and you may see your leader not doing that, so you hold him accountable. I think that's really healthy. Being a great teammate, this is pretty obvious one, but I think a lot of programs misemphasizing it. Being that servant leader, that acceptance and willingness to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Coaches always preach outward, outward, outward. I think Coach Cunningham also talks about giving to a program instead of asking or thinking about what that program can give me. I know I was bad at that, especially, being a senior, getting recruited by schools. You're thinking about, what can this program do for me? But when you have the mindset of what am I going to give to a program, I think you're going to look back when you're done and be like, okay, this program actually gave me a lot more than I thought it would. So just giving, being that servant leader. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take time, effort. You need to pour into your teammates. It might be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's very necessary. And also at Spring Arbor, I want to talk about a towel waiver. So our bench is the best bench I've ever seen at any level. You can prove me wrong, but I don't think you're going to be able to. I would encourage you to go watch our games and just watch our bench. It's really cool just to see how people are so selfless. And, when you're a coach and you emphasize that this is a role and a very important role, you don't have guys focus on why they're not playing or, what they can do to get on the floor. Or, I'm going to be thinking about myself this whole game. No, you have a job as a bench, and that's to cheer on your teammates. We also have a buddy system. So when you're on the bench, you have someone on the floor you're communicating with. I think that's super crucial. When you have 15 guys on a team, that's 30 eyes that can be watching the floor and just seeing things and communicating. That's 15 mouths. So you could be playing 15 on 5 if you wanted to, just with the communication and the talk that can happen from the bench. I think you need to practice it as well. At Spring Arbor, coach sets up a drill. He sets up a bench. He puts towels on the bench, and one at a time, we'll each go one-on-one versus one of the student assistants, and we'll score, and the bench goes crazy. If you want to be great at something, you have to practice it. So just a summary, trust. Like I said, everything that I talked about reverts right back to that word trust. And then just those 4 crucial areas of trust: the player to player, coach to player, player to coach, and then also those parents to coach. And then trust happens off the court and then on the court. And then, like I said, you need to take those role talks very seriously. So I want to talk more about that. What I think a role talk looks like, this is just my opinion. You sit everyone down that's a part of the program, and you go one player at a time, and you let that player talk about what he thinks his role is, what he thinks his strengths and weaknesses are, and then you let his teammates tell him what they think his strengths and weaknesses are, and then you go let the coaches say what they think his role is and what his strengths and weaknesses are. I think that's really healthy. I think it could be a wake-up call for some guys, and it also could be a motivator for some guys. Now, you need to be adaptable and flexible because players can get better. And I would hope that player does get better. I hope that at the end of the season, your role isn't the same as it was day one. So just being honest and open is super healthy. I think that builds a lot of trust. And then strong leadership, accountability, and being a great teammate. Some rapid fire. I'm not going to go in depth. If you guys want to go more in depth with these, I would love to. Just call me, text me, email me, DM me. Shot clock in high school, yes. Everyone shooting threes, yes, I talked about that. Mid-range, yes. I think we should encourage people to be 3-level scorers. And then I think the most important skill is knowing how to play the game and having that high IQ. And then I think the best player ever is LeBron James, but we can talk about that at a different time. So yeah, if you guys have any comments, questions, this would be the time. I'd love to answer any. It can be about anything: Homestead, Total Package Elite, Spring Arbor. It can be about anything, life.
Hey, Brandon, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm working on unmuting Jeff. There you go. He should be unmuted.
There we go. Hey, so a question from me is, what is your role on Spring Arbor?
So yeah, I'm really working on being that leader that I talked about. I think it can be really difficult. Like, you think you have everything figured out. I thought I was a great leader in high school, and then you go to college and it's way different. Like, you have to step up your leadership skills. So just I'm trying to pour into my teammates daily. Off the court, being more goal oriented. I've set up a chart that tells me my weekly goals. I want to be more organized. Coach will tell you that I'm a slob. I really want to work on that. But yeah, I think just improving as a leader would be a role that I want to step in, especially being a senior next year. We just graduated a great group of leaders the last 2 years. So, my junior year, we had Tom Hamilton. Then graduating this year, we had Paul Marindet, Luke Barber, and then one of the best leaders I've ever seen in Jeff Beckman. So I'm definitely going to have to step up and be that leader on and off the court.
Ben, did you have one before we get to the audience?
I do. So as far as some of those principles you mentioned, how can youth and high school coaches apply some of these things? Because obviously resources are more limited, and time is just limited as far as that goes. But I'd love to know how you can think you could apply those, whether it's high school, AAU, and below.
Yeah, so I guess which one, Ben? Like, just being more specific.
Let's go with high school. I think we have a lot of high school people that
but like what? So what thing, part of my presentation? I guess that'll help me answer that.
I guess the trust, because trust comes down to relationships, and when you don't have that much time, I think staying in contact with them is a big deal. So
I think social media, phones, technology is a really good thing right now. So, maybe back then it would have been weird to text players, call players, but I think we can use that as a positive right now. Just asking players about, how they're doing life. And then I think you can have time to where you meet with your players. Maybe you meet with 5 players individually after a practice or before a practice. Just taking that time to actually pour into them more than just basketball.
awesome. I think Jeremy Roush had a question.
Yeah, what's up, Brandon? Thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Hey, first of all, I'm just a big supporter of yours, and I really appreciate all that you do for our basketball community locally, and it's been enjoyable to see your success there at Spring Arbor. So we're definitely fans of yours. I'm doing a piece here pretty soon with Feel for the Game about the Homestead Feeder Program. It's something that I've admired for a while, and it's interesting just to hear your accolades in college, and then to hear that you were a 2-year varsity player in high school. I mean, you guys won state, I think, when you were on the freshman team, or maybe you got moved up. So how does coach manage just the idea that there's some high level talent that just have to work their way through the program, and what does that look like?
Yeah. For me, I started basketball really late, so I knew I didn't really have a high expectation for myself that early. I didn't really start playing till 7th grade, didn't even really take it seriously till after my sophomore year. So for me, I didn't really have that high of expectations for myself. But I think for other people, I think people just seeing that success, really helps. Maybe a guy who's on the freshman or JV team maybe thinks he can play varsity, but then you see that the varsity team is so successful. I think them just maintaining that success, and then coach doing youth camps in the summers and summer camps throughout the year. You create a big family. It's a big family at Homestead, and I think that helps a lot. Coach Johnson is really good at that, building relationships off the court.
Awesome. And then just quickly here, what was that book recommendation that you had? I didn't get a chance to write it down.
Yeah, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Patrick Lencioni, I think is how you pronounce it, Lencioni, or CI.
Got it. Thank you
I
very
can
much.
send it to you too if you want. I can text you, Coach Ralph.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Ben.
So I see a question in the chat also from Matt. He said, can you share some things that the Spring Arbor coaches do to create that parent to coach trust? Again, like I said, that team time and stuff where parents can connect with one another after games. They do a full, like a big circle. And again, the close family members, they can just connect with one another. And then we talk about how, things are going in practice. We're very open. And then, praying with one another. I really like that. And then we also do meals after games. Probably 3 times a year, we'll do a potluck where, every family will bring a dish, and then we all spend time with each other after the game, win or lose. So those are things that I think have really helped with that parent to coach trust. And then he says also, how did you survive playing for a staff that included Josh Tropez? I love Coach Tropez. I'm glad he's been so successful at Chelsea. He'll be a friend of mine for the rest of my life. So.
It looks like Ben's offline here. Does anybody else have a question for Brandon? All right. Well, Brandon, thank you very much for doing this. Any final comments here before we wrap up?
No, just thank you to everyone who's spent their time listening to me here. You could have been doing something else, but you're here, so I really appreciate that. And again, thank you, Ben, Jeff, Coach Roush, Feel for the Game. Appreciate what you're doing for Fort Wayne.